that you're making, the skincare products? You also operate retail locations, dispensaries. How does it break down?
So our business is broken down into really three categories. We have our wellness product range, which is Curaleaf, and that's split between the legal CBD business in the U.S., where we sell through all the big box retailers around the country, and that's where we've come up with our new skincare product that we launched in July, and I have to say that's going very well for us. We also have our wellness cannabis products that are sold through our dispensaries around the country, and we also have the adult use brand, which we bought Select, which we now are distributing, which is at the moment being distributed only on the West Coast, but after the merger is complete, it will start to be distributed nationwide.
So we haven't talked to you since you ran into some issues with the FDA, charging you for misleading marketing. How are you dealing with that?
So listen, the biggest problem the whole industry has is that there isn't enough transparency and regulation. So the FDA, what we had Congress pass and President Trump signed the hemp law in December of last year. The FDA started hearings in April. They did come out with some recommendations after that, but they haven't come out with their regulations for the CBD market. And so it's very difficult to understand what you can or can't do. In our case, it was simply the fact that the company had some third-party research on our websites that, for instance, to NIH, National Institute of Health and other places, because we like to educate our customers on what they're doing, that the FDA took issue with that. So we took that off. It was a 24-hour issue, and we no longer have any of those third-party links to research reports about what the benefits of CBD are.
How can consumers get better educated on what the actual health benefits are if the FDA doesn't allow it?
I think we need to get the FDA to come out with regulations. So they're working on it. We're hoping they'll come out as sooner the better. And that way the whole industry can then be transparent about what it is that we're selling. Today, we can't really say anything about what we're selling.
How do you view the competitive landscape these days? And I asked that with the news that Altria and Philip Morris International are in talks. We were just looking at a quote on Cronos, 45% of which is owned by Altria. They're talking about innovation as being one of the key reasons why they want to potentially get together. Do they become potentially a huge powerhouse one day down the road? Is that something?
Absolutely. About? I think that you're going to see the big alcohol companies. You're going to see the big cigarette companies. You're going to see consumer goods brands, drinks companies get involved. I think they're all going to be there. But it's a question of time. I mean, as I said, in Canada, it's federally legal, so they can all invest in Canadian companies. The U.S., which is a much bigger market, they can't. And so at the moment, the U.S. companies are going it alone. They're building their own product ranges. And I think that once we get some movement out of Congress and the president, maybe in the next 12 to 18 months, we hope then that we'll start to see them invest in the U.S. market.
So that conceivably would be the big day, although we have no sense at this point in terms of a legislative calendar that there's going to be any point at which it's legalization.
But I think the last time I was on, I said that, we're in a funny season with the elections, and I think that it's going to be very difficult to get anything through Congress during that period of time. So I think we're really looking at either a surprise by maybe Trump right before the elections if he's running a little bit behind and he thinks he can get the millennial vote by, rescheduling cannabis, which he can do with the sign of a pen. He doesn't need Congress, actually, to reschedule. But, we doubt it's not really an issue that the administration has, jumped on. So we think it's going to be after the presidential election.
As you project ahead to where this industry ultimately will get, you mentioned it kind of seems like a combination of this agricultural product piece of it, which is kind of a commodity, and then personal care brands and some, beverage consumables. As an investor, for all the excitement over how this is a new industry and we're going to get legalization and all the rest of it, those don't necessarily suggest massive growth over the very long term, those exact categories. So what are your expectations for
I think
where it
this
ends
is
up?
Like most companies, if you look at even Starbucks in the 1980s, a lot of companies had vertical integration. They own the cocoa bean, right. the coffee beans. Today, they don't, right? They just produce the product, they brand it, and they sell it through their retail pipe. I think you're going to see the same thing in cannabis. I think you're going to see the farming side of it, the agriculture side of it go off to the agriculture world. The big, Archer Daniel Midland, Syngenta, and companies like that, they're going to be doing that. And then you're going to see the brands either get bought by large consumer companies, or you will see some, I think, hopefully some survivors from the cannabis that are, just standalone big cannabis brands in the U.S. market. That's really how I see it developing.
My biggest question with the wellness products is, how do you establish yourself as a brand in such a nascent industry where the consumers don't really know how to distinguish between you and some of your competitors and who's legitimate? And there's so many headlines around regulation and cracking down. I mean, how do you do that?
I think size matters and balance sheet matters and marketing dollars matter, right? So this is an industry, unlike the cannabis industry, where you didn't have to market because people came to you. because there's so few legal stores around the country to actually buy the cannabis product. In the wellness area, in the CBD, it's just like any big product. You have to compete against other companies, and so there it's about marketing dollars, it's about presence, it's about how you present your product. And I think that we're in that part of the segment, we're competing with everyone else. What's good, though, is that the big players haven't gotten involved. The big consumer goods companies, cosmetic companies have not gotten involved in CBD yet, which gives us a head start by getting our brands out into big box retailers. And customers are buying them all over the country.
Because it's not fully...
It's just new, and it takes a while to ramp up. My prediction is they'll all be there within 12 months.